simple, but just in case you don't understand how to do it, I'm going to show you. So you're going to come up to File, you're going to go to New, and now you have a box where you can fill out the information about your custom document. So you can change the width, the height, and the resolution. You can also change the type of color mode, but I suggest you don't mess with that. So we're going to keep it at the size it is now and the resolution. If you want to change yours, you can go ahead and do that. So let's go ahead and hit OK. Now we have a new document. Now I'm going to hop back over into my other document because I want to show you some examples and demonstrations, and I need an image to work on in order for me to be able to do this. Let's go ahead and let's get started with the first tool. So the first tool we're going to be using is the Grab and Move tool. This tool can be used to click and grab objects on a layer. So if we click and grab this, we can't move him right now because his layer is locked, and I'll show you what that means. Over here in the right hand side of the screen where I'm circling is the layer that we're trying to select. Right now it has a lock symbol next to it. That means that the layer is locked and not much can be done to it. So if we go ahead and click that, it'll unlock the layer. Now if we come back to our image, we can click it and drag it around and move it around. So that's what the Grab and Move tool does. We'll put him back into position. Now let's move on to the next tool. The next tool is the Marquee tool. Now with the Marquee tool, you can select an area and then you can grab and move that area. So now if we come back to our Grab and Move tool, we can click and move that around. Put that back into position. There are multiple Marquee tools. So if you click and hold on the Marquee tool, it'll come up with a little window next to it. You can select these different types of Marquee tools. The ones we'll be using are the rectangular and the elliptical Marquee tool. So let's select the elliptical and see what that does. So now if we click and drag, you'll see we can create an elliptical selection. And then we can grab and move that selection. So the Marquee tool is very useful for all kinds of things. Now I want to put this piece back into its position, but I don't want to have to do it by hand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to undo this by going up to Edit and Undo Move. The next tool we're going to be going over is the Lasso tool. The Lasso tool is right here underneath the Grab and Move tool. Now the Lasso tool is also a selection tool. The difference is you can create organic shapes and custom shapes. I'll show you what I mean. So if I click with the Lasso tool, you'll see it creates a line, and wherever I click next, it'll solidify that line. So if I click up here, that line is now there permanently. And what I can do is I can just keep clicking around. So I can click around my dog character, and you get the idea that you can cut stuff out this way. Now this is a very rigid shape, and it's not very organic. So what you would want to do in a real situation is you would want to very carefully do small lines all the way around your character to cut him out. But you'll see now if I use my Grab and Move tool, I can click and drag my shape around. Now I'm going to undo that. Now there's a second Lasso tool. If we click and hold down the Lasso tool, you'll see we have the regular Lasso tool. The one we were just using was the Polygonal Lasso tool, which is this one right here. So we're going to go ahead and select the Lasso tool, and you'll see with the Lasso tool what we can do is we can actually draw a selection. So if I click and start drawing with the Lasso tool, it creates a very organic shape that I can then cut out and select. So if I grab my Select tool, we can move that around. So this tool is also very useful. Let's undo that. Okay, now I want to go over hotkeys with you. What hotkeys are is they're keys on your keyboard that you can press to quickly select a tool. So we're going to start with the hotkey for the Grab and Move tool. The Grab and Move tool is going to be the letter V on your keyboard. Now for demonstration purposes, I'm going to select a different tool so you can see how it will switch when I hit the letter V. So I'm going to hit the letter V now, and you'll see my tool switches to the grab and move tool. So now I can grab and move this. Now let's go over the hotkey for the marquee tool. The hotkey for the marquee tool is going to be the letter M. So we'll hit M, and you'll see that our tool changes to the marquee tool. Now lastly, let's go over the lasso tool. As you can probably guess, the hotkey for the lasso tool is the letter L. So we'll hit L, and now we have the lasso tool selected, and we can use that tool. Now you can imagine how useful these hotkeys are while you're working. It makes your workflow so much faster because rather than having to go all the way over to other parts of the screen to select tools, you can just hit a key on your keyboard very quickly and it'll switch between all the different tools that you need to be using. Okay, let's go over the last tool we'll be reviewing in this lecture. It's the brush tool. The brush tool is very useful in Photoshop, and it's just like it sounds. It's a paintbrush in Photoshop. So before we get started with it, let's unselect out of this selection by just clicking somewhere else on the screen, and now we've unselected our selection. Now we're going to go to the brush tool, which is this little paintbrush icon on the left upper side. So we'll click that, and now we have our brush selected. So now you'll see if we click and drag, we can paint a line, or if we just tap once, we can create a circle. So it's just like a normal brush in real life. Now what if you want to change the color of your brush? Well, it's very simple. You just come over here to the color on the left side of the screen and you click it. And now you can select any color you want by clicking anywhere on the color palette or by moving up and down the color spectrum. So let's select a green, and we'll make it as green as possible by pulling it all the way up to the corner, and then we're going to hit OK. Now you'll see that we're painting with the color green. It's pretty cool and pretty useful. But now let's say that you want the edge of your brush to be a very hard, sharp line instead of this soft line that it's creating right now. Well, the way you change that is by coming over here to this icon that looks like a can with brushes in it, and you're going to select it. And now you can see you have all these different brush types that you can select. So you'll see we have a hard edge brush which we can select, and down here in the preview window you can see what that brush will look like. We can select this more wispy brush, or if we come down you can see that there are all kinds of brushes, everything from grass to leaves to raindrops. So let's select the leaf one and see what that looks like. And now you can see we can create a trail of leaves. But what if you want to see those leaves even better? Well, you can space those leaves out by coming over here to the spacing bar, and by dragging it up, it'll put space between each stamp that it lays down. So now when we paint with it, you can see the leaves a lot better. If you want to change the size of your brush, you simply just come up here to the size bar and you can drag that up or down. So let's drag it way down, and you'll see that you can't even see our brush anymore because it's so small. Now let's bring it up, and now you'll see it's a lot bigger. Now you're probably thinking that this is going to be very time consuming to come up here every time, select your brush, change the size and the spacing. But luckily there's a way that you can do this with your hotkeys. So the hotkey to select your brush is the letter B. So if we select a different tool and then we hit the letter B, you'll see it switches over to our brush tool. Now if you want to change your size with the hotkey, it's going to be different in Windows and Mac. So I'll go over both. The hotkey for Windows is going to be Alt and then right click, and then you'll see that when you drag your mouse back and forth, it's going to increase and decrease the size of your brush. In a Mac, it's going to be Option Command, and you're going to do the same thing. You're going to hold down and drag back and forth. So let's try it now. So we'll go Alt, right click, and on a Mac you're going to go Option Command, and now we're going to drag this back and forth. So let's make our brush very big. Now you'll see that we have a ginormous brush. Alright, cool. Let's undo that. Now another way you can change the size of your brush is by hitting the square brackets on your keyboard. So the left hand side square bracket is going to decrease the size of your brush when you press it. The right hand side square bracket is going to increase your brush size. Now another thing you can do with the hotkeys is you can change the opacity of your brush. Now what the opacity is it's just the see-throughness of the brush color. Now the way you do this is by holding down Alt and then right click like you would on a Windows, and you're going to go Option Command like you would on a Mac, but this time instead of dragging from left to right, we're going to drag up and down, and you'll see on our little meter that says diameter and opacity. On the opacity, you'll see that the percentage is going up and down. If we bring our opacity very low, let's say 21%, and now we paint with it, you'll see that our brush is very see-through. Changing the opacity of things in Photoshop is very useful, and we'll be using it throughout the course. Another way you can change the opacity of your brush is by hitting the numbers at the top of your keyboard. So if we hit the number 0 on our keyboard, that will make our opacity 100%. So now you'll see it's not see-through at all. If we come all the way down and hit the number 4, now it's a lot more see-through. The last hotkey I want to go over with you is the Edit Undo hotkey. Now rather than always coming up to Edit Undo to undo things, and believe me, you will be undoing things a lot as you create your artwork in Photoshop. The hotkey on Windows is going to be Control-Z, and that will undo the last move that you did on your document. Now if you want to continue to undo movements on your document, you're going to go Control-Alt-Z, and you have to press that every time you want to continue to undo a step. On a Mac, you're going to hit Command-Shift-Z to undo your last step. You made it through this lecture. Great job. Now your assignment is going to be to create something in Photoshop with the tools I just showed